What's up, everyone, and welcome to this week's Cybersecurity Weekly, where we review the security events that happened in the last week. Before we get started, let me first apologize for the delay. Usually this comes out on Monday, but the past couple weeks have been pretty hectic, so it's taken a little longer for me to get this all together. Now, as always, I have broken down the stories in the timeline, so you can jump around as you see fit. If you find my work valuable, of course, I ask you to hit the like button, and if you have not already, please consider subscribing to my channel. We start off today with patches. Atlassian has addressed a critical vulnerability in its Jira Seraph software tracked to CVE 2022-0540 with a CVSS score of 9.9 that can be exploited by an unauthenticated attacker to bypass authentication. A threat actor could trigger the vulnerability by sending a specially crafted HTTP request to vulnerable software. The issue affects Atlassian Jira Server and Data Center versions before 8.13.18, versions 18.14.0, and later before 18.20.6, and versions 18.21.0 and later before 18.22.0. The flaw also impacts Atlassian Jira Service Management Server and Data Center versions before 14.13.18, versions 14.14.0, between 14.14.0 and 4.20.6, and between versions 4.21.0 and 4.22.0. Jira and Jira Service Management are vulnerable to an authentication bypass in its web authentication framework, Jira Seraph. Although the vulnerability is in the core of Jira, it affects first and third-party apps that specify roles required at the WebWork1 action namespace level and do not specify it at the action level. For a specific action to be affected, the action will also need to not perform any other authentication or authorization checks, reads the security advisory published by the company. Now, a remote unauthenticated attacker could exploit this by sending this specially crafted HTTP request to bypass authentication and authorization requirements in WebWork actions using an affected configuration. Customers that are using any apps listed in the determining which apps are affected section and all versions of the apps are affected can mitigate the security risk by disabling the app until they're able to install a fixed version of Jira or Jira Service Management. The vulnerability was reported by Kodha of Viatel Cybersecurity. We now move on to attacks, vulnerabilities, and updates. Google and Mandiant have published two reports that highlight a surge in the discovery of zero-day flaws exploited by threat actors in attacks in the wild. Google's Project Zero researchers reported that 58 zero days were discovered in 2021, 28 zero days were detected in 2020, which marks a record for the company since it started tracking these issues in mid-2014. While we often talk about the number of zero-day exploits used in the wild, what we're actually discussing is the number of zero-day exploits detected and disclosed as in the wild. And that leads into our first conclusion. We believe that the large uptick in the wild 0 days in 2021 is due to increased detection and disclosure of these 0 days rather than simply increased usage of zero-day exploits, reads the report published by Google Project Zero. Google experts pointed out that the situation is going better compared to the past. Now, all vendors agree to disclose in the wild exploitation status of zero-day flaws in their security bulletins, and technical details of the exploits are shared more widely, meaning companies are now fessing up that they have a 0 day. Google researchers reported that the exploitation of the 0 days they saw in 2021 was not different from the past, giving a closer look at the type of 0 days observed by Google. 39 of the 58, or 67%, are memory corruption vulnerabilities, 17 are use after free, 6 are out of bounds read and write, 4 are buffer overflows, and 4 integer overflow flaws. Memory corruption vulnerabilities have been the standard for attacking software for the last few decades, and it's still how attackers are having success. Out of these memory corruption vulnerabilities, the majority also stuck with very popular and well-known bug classes, continues Google's report. Mandiant researchers also published a report warning of the surge in the number of zero-day exploited in 2021. According to the company, 80 zero-day issues were exploited last year, which is more than double the previous record volume in 2019. Mandiant states that from 2012 to 2021, China exploited more zero days than any other nation. Most of the 0 days discovered by the company were exploited by nation-state groups. The experts also observed an increased use of zero-day exploits by financially motivated threat actors, particularly ransomware groups. From 2012 to 2021, China-linked threat actors exploited more 0 days than any other nation-state actors. The experts reported that since 2012, at least 10 separate countries have likely exploited 0 days. The researchers also observed private vendors emerging as significant exploit brokers in 2021. The U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation published a flash report that states that at least 60 entities worldwide have been breached by Black Cat ransomware, also known as Alpha and Noberus, since it started its operations in November 2021. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has released a flash report detailing indicators of compromise associated with attacks involving Black Cat, Alpha, ransomware as a service that has compromised at least 60 entities worldwide, reads the flash advisory. CISA encourages users and administrators to review the IOCs and technical details in FBI Flash CU 000167-NW MW and apply the recommended mitigations. The list of the victims of the gang includes Montclair and Swissport and Einatum. The Black Cat Alpha V is a ransomware. Was first discovered in December by malware researchers from Recorded Future and Malware Hunter team. The malware is the first professional ransomware strain that was written in the Rust programming language. Black Cat can target Windows, Linux, and VMware ESXi systems, but at this time the number of victims is limited. The popular malware researcher Michael Gillespie said that the Black Cat ransomware is very sophisticated. Recorded Future experts speculate that the author of the Black Cat ransomware, known as Alpha, was previously involved in the R-Evil ransomware operations. According to the alert, many of the developers and money launderers for the gang are linked to dark side or black matter operations. Alpha has been advertising the Black Cat ransomware as a service on the cybercrime forums XSS and Exploit since early December. Like other ransomware groups, the gang also implements a double extortion model threatening to leak the stolen data if the victims don't pay. Alpha is attempting to recruit affiliates for its operations, offering them between 80 and 90% of the final ransom, depending on its value. The Black Cat operations only hit a small number of victims at the time in the US, Australia, and India. Ransom demands range from a few hundred thousand up to $3 million worth of Bitcoin or Monero. According to the Iran state television, they thwarted an attack. Now, the attack attempts took place in recent days and aimed at the infrastructure of more than 100 public sector agencies. The report did not name entities that were targeted by the cyber attacks. Iranian authorities did not attribute the attacks to a specific threat actor. They only said that the offensive was launched from systems in the Netherlands, Britain, and the United States. However, Iranian authorities also blamed foreign hackers for the attacks on local critical infrastructure. The report said that unidentified parties behind the cyber attacks also used internet protocols in the Netherlands, Britain, and the United States to stage attacks. In October, a cyber attack disrupted gas stations from the state-owned National Iranian Oil Production Distributor Company, or NIOPDC, across Iran. The attack also defaced the screens at the gas pumps and gas price billboards. In July 2021, Iran's railroad system was hit by a cyber attack. Threat actors published fake messages about delays or cancellations of the trains on display boards at stations across the country, the Fars news agency reported. The attack against Iran's national railway system involved a wiper malware dubbed Meteor and not ransomware as initially thought. Meteor was a previously undetected strain of malware, but experts were not able to link it to specific advanced persistent threat actors. Messages on the boards informed passengers that the trains were long delayed because of a cyber attack or canceled. The messages also urged passengers to call for information and provided the phone number of the office of the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. However, the most debated attack against Iran was Stuxnet. Its story is still one of the most intriguing cases of modern information warfare. The virus was developed by the US and Israel to interfere with the nuclear enrichment program conducted by Iran in the plant of Natanz. Stuxnet is a malicious computer worm developed to target SCADA systems that were first uncovered in 2010, but researchers believe its development began at least in 2005. Stuxnet has been designed to hit centrifuges used in the uranium enrichment process in nuclear plants of the country. Now, if you recall, in recent weeks, we've talked about SCADA malware being developed by Russian hackers to attack the United States and international companies that use the software. who knows whether or not the software that the CISA and NSA were warning everybody about could be, I'm saying could be, a fork of Stuxnet or rework of Stuxnet. Who knows? Researchers from SecureWorks state that the Conti ransomware gang, tracked as a Russia-based threat actor, Gold Ulrich, continues to operate despite the recent data leak on its internal activities. The group's activity returned to the levels that represented a peak in 2021. The gang rapidly reacted to the public disclosure of its communications, its source code, and its operational details. The number of victims added to the Conti leak site increased in February 2022. On February 27th, the Conti Leaks Twitter persona began leaking Gold Ulrich data and communications. Despite these public disclosures, the number of Conti victims posted in March surged to the second highest monthly total since January 2021, reads the post published by the SecureWorks Center or Counter Threat Unit. One of the members of the Gold Ulrich gang that goes online with the moniker Jordan Conti said that the leak had a minimal impact on its operations. According to the post published by Jordan Conti on the Ramp Underground forum, the Conti dark web leak site only lists victims that refused to pay the ransom, and that the gang has compromised twice that number. This means that the Conti gang has a 50% payment success rate with an average payout of $700,000. The Conti ransomware operators added 11 new victims to the list on their leak site in the first 4 days of April. Its success is due to the evolution of its tactics, techniques, and procedures. German wind turbine giant Deutsche Windtechnik announced that some of its systems were hit by a targeted professional cyber attack earlier this month. The attack took place during the night between April 11th and 12th. The company switched off remote data monitoring connections to the wind turbines for security reasons. The connections were resumed 2 days later. The company pointed out that the wind turbines did not suffer any damage and were never in danger. Deutsche Windtech did not disclose details about the attack, but experts believe that the company was hit with ransomware. At the end of March, the Conti ransomware gang hit the manufacturer of wind turbines Nordex, while in early March, wind turbine manufacturer Enercon GmbH lost remote connection to roughly 5,800 turbines due to an attack on the Viasat's satellite network. The Microsoft 365 Defender research team has discovered 2 Linux privilege escalation flaws tracked to CVE 2022-29799 and CVE 2022-29800 called Nimbus Pawn, which can be exploited by attackers to conduct various malicious activities, including the deployment of malware. The vulnerabilities can be chained together to gain root privileges on Linux systems, allowing attackers to deploy payloads like a root backdoor and perform other malicious actions via arbitrary root code execution, reads the advisory published by Microsoft. The flaws can be exploited by attackers to achieve root access to the target systems and deploy by more sophisticated threats such as ransomware. The flaws reside in the System D component called Networked Dispatcher, which is a dispatcher daemon for System D Network D connection status changes. The review of the code flow of Network D-Dispatcher revealed multiple security issues, including directory traversal, symlink raise, and time of use raise conditions. The researchers started enumerating services that run as root and listen to messages on the system bus, performing both code reviews and dynamic analysis. Chaining the issues, an attacker in control of a rogue D-bus service that can send an arbitrary signal can deploy backdoors on the compromised final touches. The researchers were able to develop their own exploit that runs an arbitrary script as root. The exploit also copies /bin/sh to the /temp directory, sets temp/sh as a set UID or SUID executable, and then invokes /temp/sh-p. The -p flag is necessary to force the shell to not drop privileges. Researchers recommend users of Network D Dispatcher to update their installs. To address the specific vulnerabilities at play, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint's endpoint detection and response capabilities detected directory traversal attack required to leverage Nimbus Pawn. Microsoft states that at least 6 separate Russia-linked threat actors launched more than 237 operations against Ukraine starting just before the invasion. The cyber attacks included destructive wipers that were used to target critical infrastructure in a hybrid war against Ukraine. Wiper families employed in the attacks include Whispergate, also known as Whisperkill, Foxblade, aka Hermetic Wiper, Sonic Vote, aka Hermetic Ransom, Caddy Wiper, Desert Blade, Indestroyer 2, Lazane Raw, aka Isaac Wiper, Fiber Lake, aka Double Zero. Microsoft Office report also reported having observed limited cyber espionage attacks aimed at other NATO member states, along with disinformation campaigns. Microsoft states that Russia-linked threat actors involved in the attacks include App28, Energetic Bear, Gamaredon, Sandworm, Turla, Dev0586, and Nobelium. The experts pointed out that starting just before the invasion, threat actors linked to the military intelligence service GRU launched destructive wiper attacks on hundreds of systems in the Ukraine. More than 40% of the destructive attacks hit critical infrastructure sectors. The targets have been chosen to impact the government, military, economy, and people. 32% of the destructive attacks were aimed at Ukrainian government organizations at the national, regional, and city levels. Cloudflare announced to have mitigated a distributed denial of service attack that peaked at 15.3 million requests per second, which is one of the largest HTTPS DDoS attacks blocked by the company. The company blocked the attack earlier this month. Experts pointed out that the HTTPS DDoS attacks are more expensive because they require higher computational resources for establishing a secure TLS encrypted connection. On the other side, HTTPS DDoS attacks cost more to the victim to mitigate. Earlier this month, Cloudflare systems automatically detected and mitigated this 15.3 million requests per second DDoS attack, one of the largest HTTPS DDoS attacks on record, reads the post published by Cloudflare. We've seen very large attacks in the past over unencrypted HTTP, but this attack stands out because of the resources it required at its scale using HTTPS. The attack was launched by a botnet composed of approximately 6,000 unique bots that was monitored by Cloudflare experts and that was involved in other massive attacks that peaked at 10 million requests per second. The DDoS attack blocked by the company lasted less than 15 seconds and targeted an unnamed customer operating a crypto launchpad. Crypto launchpads are platforms for launching new coins, crypto projects, and raising liquidity. Volumetric DDoS attacks are designed to overwhelm a target network service with significantly high volumes of malicious traffic, which typically originate from a botnet under a threat actor's control. The analysis of the malicious traffic revealed that it mostly originated from data centers. It originated from 112 countries around the world. 15% of the malicious traffic originated from Indonesia, followed by Russia, Brazil, India, Colombia, and the United States. Within those countries, the attack originated from over 1,300 different networks. The top networks included the German provider Hetzner Online GmbH, Autonomous System number 24940, Azteca Comunicaciones Colombia, OVH in France, as well as other cloud providers, concludes the post. In August, the web infrastructure and website security company Cloudflare announced that it has mitigated the largest ever volumetric distributed denial of service attack at the time. The malicious traffic reached a record high of 17.2 million requests per second, a volume 3 times larger than previously reported HTTP DDoS attacks. Be aware that the attack that the company blocked in August was an HTTP DDoS and not an HTTPS one. In November 2021, the company mitigated a distributed denial of service attack that peaked just below 2 terabytes per second, which is the largest attack Cloudflare has seen to date. Cyber criminal groups that were previously using the Bazel loader and Iced ID as part of their malware campaigns seem to have adopted a new loader called Bumblebee. The loader appears to be under development and is a highly sophisticated malware that first appeared in the threat landscape in March 2022. Proofpoint researchers have tracked at least 3 clusters of activity associated with the distribution of the Bumblebee. The campaigns overlap with activity detailed by the Google Threat Analysis Group in March that aimed at distributing Conti and Diavol ransomware. Bumblebee implements anti-virtualization checks and a unique implementation of common downloader capabilities. It was observed dropping Cobalt Strike, Shellcode, Sliver, and Meterpreter. The attacks observed by Proofpoint experts employed DocuSign-branded messages and aimed at tricking recipients into downloading malicious ISO file hosted on OneDrive. In one of the paths observed by the experts, threat actors send messages containing a review the document hyperlink, with another one, while another one leverages an HTML attachment containing a URL that uses a traffic direction system dubbed Prometheus to filter downloads based on the time zone and cookies of the potential victim. Attackers also attempted to abuse the contact form on the target's website and send to the recipient a message claiming copyright violations of images. The messages includes a link to a landing page that directed the user to download the ISO file containing document stolen images.link and NEQW.dll. Proofpoint also observed a second campaign in April 2022 involving a thread hijacking campaign delivering emails that appeared to be the replies to existing benign email conversations with malicious zipped ISO attachments. Proofpoint reported significant changes to Bumblebee functionality in the latest version of the loader employed in the April campaign, such as the support for multiple command and control servers and the addition of an encryption layer to the network communications. Experts believe that the threat actors using Bumblebee could be initial access brokers that have received the loader from these same threat actors. Ukraine's Computer Emergency Response Team announced that it is investigating, along with the National Bank of Ukraine, ongoing DDoS attacks targeting pro-Ukrainian sites on the government web portal. The attacks originated from compromised websites, most of them using the WordPress CMS. Threat actors planted a malicious JavaScript code tracked as brown flood in the web pages of the sites to generate the malicious traffic to a list of static URLs included in the JavaScript code. The attackers placed scripts in the HTML structure of the main files, HTML, JavaScript, etc., of the compromised websites. The scripts are also encoded in base64 to avoid detection. Owners of the website should detect the abnormal activity by inspecting the log files of the web server, looking at events with the response code 404, and correlating them with the values of the HTTP header referrer, which will contain the address of the web resource initiating a request. The alert includes a list of targeted websites and YARA rules for the detection of these attacks. The Fin7 criminal group had been mailing malware-ridden USBs to various entities in the transport, insurance, and defense industries under the guise that they are originated from a trusted source such as Amazon and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Those from the former were supposedly gift vouchers, while the latter claimed to include new COVID guidelines. Fin7's bad USB attacks serve as a reminder of two key vulnerabilities present among all organizations. The bad USB attack first exploited enterprises' greatest weakness, insiders. The malicious USBs appear to have come from a legitimate source, thus gaining the recipient's trust, and the accompanying letters played on human emotions such as fear and greed, taking over any cautionary instincts. The seemingly benign device further alleviates any potential suspicion, especially since USBs usage increased by 30% in 2021, making it a commonly used device. It's unlikely one would question its integrity. Bad USBs and other spoofing devices perfectly impersonate legitimate HIDs through Layer 1 manipulation. Existing security solutions fail to cover the Layer 1 domain, resulting in gaps in asset visibility that prevent the detection of spoofing devices. Instead, security tools recognize it as an unauthorized device and grant it access to the network. The attack tool raises no security alarms. In other words, once an insider has been successfully exploited through social engineering techniques and subsequently connects the bad USB to an endpoint, there's nothing in place to mitigate the attack. The ease with which one can purchase a rogue device, thanks to their accessibility and low cost, exacerbates the risk, many costing less than $100 on sites like AliExpress. Such tools, once only used by well-resourced agencies such as the NSA, as revealed by Edward Snowden, are now readily available to anyone. This increases the number of and type of attacks. Reckless, malicious actors such as terrorist organizations can get their hands on such devices, increasing the severity of the threat as they act without anything to lose. The bad USB is just one of many rogue devices used to carry out malicious activities. These hardware-based attacks highlight that anything connected to the network poses a threat. While organizations can invest in cybersecurity training to increase employees' awareness about what devices they are using, insiders will always remain a weakness. Zero trust approaches better alleviate the threat by authenticating and authorizing devices based on the principle of never trust, always verify. Taiwanese vendor QNAP is warning customers to disable the AFP file service protocol on their network-attached storage device until it fixes several critical NetaTalk vulnerabilities. NetaTalk is a free open-source implementation of the Apple filing protocol that allows Unix-like operating systems to serve as a file server for macOS computers. QNAP NAS devices support the AFP protocol to enable macOS users to access data on the NAS. Upon the latest release of NetaTalk 3.1.13, the NetaTalk deployment team disclosed multiple fixed vulnerabilities affecting earlier versions of the software, CB 2021 31439, Why does it have 31439 again? 23121, 23123, 23122, 23125, 23124, and 0194 reads the advisory published by the vendor. To mitigate these vulnerabilities, disable AFP. We recommend users to check back and install security updates as soon as they become available. The company has announced it has already addressed the vulnerabilities in QTS 4.5.4.2012, build 20220419, and later. Administrators can disable AFP on their QTS or QUTS Hero NAS devices through the Control Panel, Network and File Services, WinMac, NFS, WebDAV, Apple Networking, and select the Disable AFP item. In mid-March, the Taiwanese hardware vendor warned most of its network-attached storage devices are impacted by the recently discovered Linux vulnerability Dirty Pipe. An attacker with local access can exploit the high-severity vulnerability Dirty Pipe to gain root privileges. The vendor has yet to fix the Dirty Pipe flaw on NAS devices running QUTS Cloud C5.0.x. The vendor released firmware updates to solve critical Apache HTTP server issues for devices running QTS, QUTS Hero, and QUTS Cloud. The @Op Russia, launched by Anonymous on Russia after the criminal invasion of Ukraine, continues. The collective claims to have published more than 6 terabytes of Russian data via DDoS secrets. This is an update on the recent attack and associated data leaks via the DDoS secrets platform. So you have Elektrocentromontaj is the largest and chief power organization of Russia. It designs, tests, builds, installs, and maintains electric equipment in power generation and transmission facilities in over 25 regions of Russia. The ECM's domestic clients include the Novovoronezh, Kursk, and Smolensk nuclear power plants, Russian Railways, JSC, State Enterprise Moscow Power Dictatorate, the Energy Department of Moscow Government, the Moscow United Electric Grid JSC branch, the Baltic Oil Pipelines LLC. The collective has released a 1.7 terabyte archive via DDoS secrets that contains 1.23 million emails from the Baltic Oil Pipelines LLC. That is PSCB. Petersburg Social Commercial Bank is one of the top 100 Russian banks in terms of net assets. The financial institution was leaked by Anonymous affiliate network Battalion 65, one of the most active hacking groups since the beginning of the invasion. The collective has released a 542 gigabyte archive via DDoS secrets that contains 229,000 emails and 630,000 files from the Petersburg Social Commerce Bank. Known as Alet, it's a customs broker for companies in the fuel and energy industries, handling exports and customs declarations for coal, crude oil, liquefied gases, and petroleum products. Alet has worked with over 400 companies since 2011 to file over 119,000 customs declarations and has recommendations from Gazprom, Gazprom-Neft, and Bashneft. Approximately 75% of Alet's business comes from oil products, 10% from oil, and 9% from hydrocarbon products. The collective has released a 1.1 terabyte archive via DDoS secrets that contains nearly 1.1 million emails from Alet. The Romanian National Cybersecurity and Incident Response Team, DNSC, warns of a series of distributed denial of service attacks targeting government websites. The attacks started on April 29, 2022 at 4 a.m. The attacks were allegedly launched by pro-Russian group Killnet. Below is the list of targeted websites: gov.ro, Romanian's government; mapen.ro, which is the Ministry of Defense; Poliția de Frontieră.ro, the Romanian Border Police; CFRCALOTRE.ro, Romania's National Railway Transport Company; and OTPBank.ro is a commercial bank operating in Romania. The website of the DNSC is currently unreachable, but it's not clear if it was hit by a DDoS attack too. Other Romanian agencies are investigating the attacks. Below is a statement published by the Romanian Intelligence Service. The pro-Russian Eastern Killnet group, who claimed the responsibility for the attacks this month, launched DDoS attacks on the sites of institutions in states such as the USA, Estonia, or countries such as the USA, Estonia, Poland, the Czech Republic, but also NATO sites. The DNSC shared indicators of compromise for these attacks and published guidelines to mitigate them. This week, Ukraine's Computer Emergency Response Team announced that it is investigating, along with the National Bank of Ukraine, ongoing DDoS attacks targeting pro-Ukrainian sites and the government web portal. The attacks originated from compromised websites, most of them WordPress CMS sites, which we read about earlier on. The operators of the infamous Emotet botnet are testing new attack techniques in response to Microsoft's move to disable Visual Basic for applications macros by default. The threat actors are adopting the new techniques on a limited number of targets before adopting them in larger scale mall spam campaigns. Proofpoint researchers state that the operators are testing the new techniques in more selective attacks in parallel to the typical large-scale mall spam attacks. The activity occurred while Emotet was on a spring break, not conducting its typical high-volume threat campaigns, reads the analysis published by Proofpoint. The threat actor has since resumed its typical activity. Proofpoint assesses that the threat group distributing Emotet is likely testing new tactics, techniques, and procedures on a small scale before adopting them in broader campaigns or to deploy them in parallel with the broader campaigns. The Emotet banking Trojan has been active since at least 2014. The botnet is operated by a threat actor tracked as TA542. The infamous banking Trojan was also used to deliver other malicious code such as TrickBot and QBot, Trojans, or ransomware such as Conti, Prolock, Ryuk, and eGregor. In mid-November 2021, researchers from multiple security firms, Cryptalamus, GData, and Advanced Intel, reported that threat actors are using the TrickBot malware to drop an Emotet loader on infected devices. The experts tracked the campaign aimed at rebuilding the Emotet botnet using TrickBot's infrastructure as Operation Reach-Around. In December, the Emotet malware was observed directly installing Cobalt Strike beacons to give the attackers access to the target network. Researchers from Adventel believe that the return will have a significant impact on the ransomware operations and threat landscape, likely the largest threat ecosystem shift in 2021 and beyond due to three reasons. Emotet's unmatched continuous loader capabilities, the correlation between these capabilities and the demand of the contemporary cybercrime market, the return of the TrickBot Emotet ransomware triad resulted from the first 2 points. The Emotet botnet was resurrected by its former operator, who was convinced by the Conti ransomware gang. The shutdown of the Emotet operation resulted in the lack of high-quality initial access brokers. And we covered all of this in a previous episode months ago. QBot and TrickBot used Emotet's service to deploy multiple ransomware strains, including Conti, Doppelpaymer, eGregor, Prolock, Ryuk, and others. The low-volume Emotet campaign spotted by Proofpoint leverages a compromised sender's account, and the emails were not sent by the Emotet spam module. The campaign was observed between April 4th and April 19th, 2022. The messages used simple words as subjects such as salary. The messages include OneDrive URLs pointing to zip files containing Microsoft Excel add-in files. The execution of the Microsoft Excel add-in files in the zip archives allows to drop and run the Emotet payload. In order to evade detection, the threat actors are testing a different attack chain that, unlike the typical one, doesn't use macro-enabled Microsoft Excel or Word document attachments. Microsoft addressed a couple of vulnerabilities impacting the Azure database for PostgreSQL Flexible Server that could result in unauthorized cross-account database access in a region. The vulnerabilities were discovered by researchers at cloud cybersecurity firm Wiz that reported them to the IT giant under coordinated vulnerability disclosure. I'm starting to get the feeling that Wiz focuses primarily on Microsoft products and just keeps finding holes in them. Wiz research has discovered a chain of critical vulnerabilities in the widely used Azure database for PostgreSQL Flexible Server. Dubbed Extra Replica, this vulnerability allows unauthorized read access to other customers' PostgreSQL databases, bypassing tenant isolation. Reads the analysis published by Wiz. If exploited, a malicious actor could have replicated and gained read access to Azure PostgreSQL Flexible Server customer databases. The experts called the exploit chain Extra Replica. Microsoft mitigated the vulnerability within 48 hours on January 13, 2022. Microsoft's advisory states that the flaws don't impact customers using the private access networking option. Microsoft's advisory states that the flaws don't impact the customers using the private access network option. The two flaws are a PostgreSQL privilege escalation bug and a cross-account authentication bypass using a forged certificate issue. The step-by-step attack procedure is as follows. Choose a target PostgreSQL Flexible Server, retrieve the target's common name from the certificate transparency feed, purchase a specially crafted certificate from DigiCert or a DigiCert Intermediate Certificate Authority, find the target's Azure region by resolving the database domain name and matching it to one of the Azure's public IP ranges, create an attacker-controlled database in the target's Azure region, exploit vulnerability number 1 on the attacker-controlled instance to escalate privileges and gain code execution, scan the subnet for the target instance, and exploit vulnerability 2 to gain read access. Now, Microsoft states that no action is required by customers It also recommends customers to enable private network access when setting up their flexible server instances to mitigate the flaws. We now move on to other security news. When we speak about the secretive business of surveillance businesses, we often refer to the powerful tools developed by Israeli firms like NSO Group and Kendiru. But many other firms operate in the shadow, like the US company Anomaly 6, also known as A6. According to an interesting analysis published by The Intercept, Anomaly 6 is a secretive government contractor that claims to monitor billions of phones worldwide. While Russia was invading Ukraine in February, two unknown surveillance startups, Anomaly 6 and Signal Labs, joined forces to provide powerful surveillance services. Signal Labs is a company that provides social media surveillance. Combining its analysis with capabilities of A6, the U.S. government was able to spy on the Russian army before the invasion. According to audio-visual recordings of an A6 presentation reviewed by The Intercept and Tech Inquiry, the firm claims that it can track roughly 3 billion devices in real time, equivalent to a fifth of the world's population, reads the article published by The Intercept. The staggering surveillance capacity was cited during a pitch to provide A6 phone tracking capabilities to Signal Labs, a social media monitoring firm that leverages its access to Twitter's rarely granted Firehose data stream to sift through hundreds of millions of tweets per day without restriction. The capabilities claimed by the surveillance firm are worrisome. A government contractor can spy on Americans and pass gathered data to the U.S. intelligence agencies. The source that provided the information on the secretive surveillance firms to The Intercept said that Signal Labs violated Twitter's terms of service to gather intelligence, but the company refused any accusation. A6, unlike other surveillance firms, harvests only GPS pinpoints, and data it provides allows to surveil roughly 230 million devices on an average day. A6 is able to access GPS measurements gathered through covert partnerships with thousands of apps. A6 also claimed to have amassed a huge quantity of information on people. It has gathered over 2 billion email addresses and other personal details for these individuals. These data points were voluntarily shared by mobile users when signing up for smartphone apps. A company spokesperson explained that users agree on everything without reading the end-user license agreement. At this time, The Intercept was not able to verify the real capabilities of the Anomaly 6's surveillance platform, while Signal Labs denied any form of collaboration with Anomaly 6. While Anomaly 6 has in the past demonstrated its capabilities to Signal Labs does not have a relationship with Anomaly 6. We have never integrated Anomaly 6's capabilities into our platform, nor have we ever delivered Anomaly 6 to any of our customers, reads a statement issued by Signal Labs. Motherboard reported that U.S. Special Operations Command paid Anomaly 6 $590,000 in September 2020 for a year of access to the company's service. The U.S. Department of State is offering up to $10 million for information that allows it to identify or locate 6 Russian GRU hackers who are members of the Sandworm app group. The reward is covered by the Rewards for Justice program of the United States government, which rewards people that can share information that can allow to identify or locate foreign government threat actors who conduct cyber operations against the United States critical infrastructure in violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. The 6 individuals are Russian officers of the main intelligence directorate of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, GRU, a division of the Russian military intelligence that was often involved in a malicious cyber operations against the United States infrastructure. The 6 Russian officers are all members of the GRU's Unit 74455, also known as Sandworm, Telebots, Voodoo Bear, and Iron Viking. This isn't the first time that the United States government indicated or indicted these members of the Sandworm team. In October 2020, the U.S. Department of Justice charged these 6 same individuals or officials for their alleged role in several major cyber attacks conducted over past years. According to the indictment, the GRU officers were involved in attacks on Ukraine, including the attacks aimed at the country's power grid in 2015 and 2016 that employed the Black Energy and Destroyer malware. U.S. DOJ charged the men with damaging protected computers, conspiracy to conduct computer fraud and abuse, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and aggravated identity theft. The U.S. Department of State states that cyber activities conducted by the app group collectively cost impacted U.S. entities nearly $1 billion in losses. Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency published the list of 2021's top 15 most exploited software vulnerabilities. This joint cybersecurity advisory was co-authored by cybersecurity agencies of the United States, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, National Security Agency, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Australian Cybersecurity Centre, Canadian Centre for the Cybersecurity, New Zealand National Cybersecurity Centre, and the United Kingdom's National Cybersecurity Centre. This advisory also includes other frequently exploited vulnerabilities. The list includes CVE 2021-21971 affecting VMware vSphere client, CVE 2021-26084 in Atlassian Confluence, CVE 2021-40539 in Zoho Managed Engine AD Self-Service Plus, CVE 2018-13379 in Fortinet 40OS and FortiProxy, CVE 2019-11510 in Pulse Secure Pulse Connect Server, CV 2019-11511, and then there's Log4 Shell, Proxy Logon, Proxy Shell, and Zero Logon. With that, I say thanks again for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe if you have not already, and smash the bell if you have not already to be notified when I upload new episodes, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care.
Don't forget to ride!